Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of 1 Million Cups. My name is Nicholas Stamper, and I'll be hosting today's presentation. First, I'm going to talk for a few minutes about 1 Million Cups Chico, its mission, and the second thing will be the actual 6-minute presentation given to us by our special guest. And then third, we'll cover is a Q&A from our audience and our special guest. And then shortly after that, we'll wrap up. 1 Million Cups was created by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. The purpose of this foundation works alongside educators, researchers, and other partners to better understand and improve the environment in which entrepreneurs start and grow business. 1 Million Cups is a free weekly program to educate, engage, and connect with local entrepreneurs. It's an environment where you get to be able to have different conversations with different entrepreneurs and business owners. The overall mission behind 1 Million Cups is to, again, not only lower the barrier of access to education and resources for entrepreneurs, but to be surrounded by a community and an environment that helps you build ideas and get feedback for your business. In the beginning, 1 Million Cups started off small in Kansas City, and then by July 2022 and forward, it's grown to over 131 communities. Moving forward, at each location, there are presentations each week. Today, we have Dick Gorley with Soul Deck Leadership. He'll have 6 minutes to present and then 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. If you want to know more about 1 Million Cups or how to present, please feel free to join our amazing community online and visit our platform at www.1millioncups.com/Chico. And with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Dick for his presentation.
Great. Thank you very much. Let me pull this up real quick. It's great to be here today with you guys, and appreciate the great work you're doing in the ecosystem. So can you guys see that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and go here. I've got a few backup slides, so I'll go through the thing fairly quickly in the 6-7 minutes, and then we'll have plenty of time to kind of have a longer conversation. So it's great to be here. Again, my name is Dick Gorley, and I'm the founder of Soul Deck Leadership. And I want to share a little bit with you about what we're doing with this startup. So the first thing is, the startup is about servant leadership. What we do is we help nonprofit social ventures learn how to lead using servant leadership, and then we teach them how to create their own social venture. This is a quote from me that basically just says, I've learned that leadership is an acquired skill set honed through experience. Servant leadership is the highest form of leadership because it puts the needs of those being led first while cultivating organizational cultures that enable organizations to thrive. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. A quick overview of Soul Deck. Soul Deck's an innovative global nonprofit organization that's committed to enabling a new generation of inspired servant leaders. So the net is our organization is developing leaders to create social ventures and businesses that will help make the world a little bit better. This is a slide called Who We Serve. So you always want to begin with a customer, and you can see here we have 4 segments: individuals, business organizations, nonprofit organizations, and social ventures. The beautiful young lady there is Emma Kuimanti, who is on the call with us today. She's in Accra, Ghana, and she was basically our minimum viable product project. And she launched a year ago, May, and we graduated 38 mothers in second half of 2022, and we'll be expanding to Nigeria and Kenya in 2024. So what's the problem? You can see the chart here. You can see the famous philosopher down here in the bottom right, Yogi Berra. And he always said, if you don't know where you're going, you might not get there. And so he also said, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. So the problem is you've got individuals, leaders, and organizations that have desire, passion, and domain expertise to create new business, nonprofit, or social ventures, but they don't have a simple, affordable, innovative, or high-quality way to learn how to do that, to create it, to build it, and sustain it, and create an enduring and well-run organization. You have programs like Y Combinator, which do a great job, but they're not focused on the nonprofit space. So our solution is the Soldic Leadership Global Online Community. And what happened was I'd spent years flying all over the world as a tech exec, be gone for 4 or 5 days, leave on a Saturday, come home Friday night for dinner. And, the trips cost a lot and it was hard on you, et cetera. And so we've been working on this, and the original idea was to have it kind of be where you would go to a resort and spend 2 or 3 weeks, and you'd hike and go to classes, kind of like they do back on the East Coast. But when COVID hit, everything went virtual. And so what occurred to me was that we could do the community online instead of in person. So there's two components to what we're doing here. The first is awareness. So if you look at the Soldic Leadership box there, that's our website. And there's a lot of information about servant leadership and what we do. The second is knowledge and support. So that's actually the community. So when you're in the community, you can go through the different schools and get certified and then build your own social venture. So this just shows the website, and I'd encourage you to take a look at it when you have a chance. We'd love any feedback you have. This is what's included in the website. So you've got an introduction to servant leadership workshop, and that's what things I'm going to do today at Folsom with the group out there. So it really kind of says, here's servant leadership, here's why it may be appropriate for you. And the business problem we're solving, particularly for startups, is startups are hard. And so you have 1 or 2 people start a startup and they've never done it before. And so they're kind of lost, and they may hire the wrong people. They may make a lot of poor choices. And I've done all that over the years. So I've made all the mistakes. There's an opportunity to do servant leadership keynote talks. There'll be a servant leadership resource center, which will eventually be inside the community. And then last but not least, we do what we call a servant leadership readiness assessment. That's where we work with people one-on-one to say, do you really want to go do this? Because it's not for everybody. There's different types of leaders. There's a power model of leadership, and there's a servant leader. Very different, and both work. But we happen to think servant leadership is pretty darn good. So this is our global online community. We haven't made it available yet to the public, but this is the sign-in page. And behind here is a whole series of content, meeting rooms. There's our servant leadership school, our social venture school, and then our incubator for social ventures. So inside the community, this is what happens. So once you say, I want to go do this, we onboard you formally. So each person gets a personal touch. We have a mobile app that will go help them as they go through this journey. And then we will have a mentor. And the purpose of the mentor is to help each of them develop a personal development plan for both the organization and for themselves. So if you were to go through here, the first thing you would go through is the servant leadership school. And then once you're done with that, you can just become an alumni, or you can continue through, you can go to leadership personal development. So there's lots of things that young people don't know much about, how to write a thank you letter, how to set up a meeting, things like that are, just kind of, we take it for granted, but people don't train anybody anymore on it. So we've got that there. And then the next area is the social venture school. So this would be like going to a lean canvas cohort where you're doing the lean canvas and you're basically laying out your business plan overview to go do your whatever you're doing. Once that's done, again, you could quit at that point and say, okay, I've got enough here to do it. Or you can continue and we'll assign you a coach. And a coach is different than a mentor. A mentor pretty much says, here's what you need to do, where a coach says, well, what do you think about this? And then you want the leader to really think about what they need to do. And then following that, we have a social incubator, and that is funded by the foundation. So people will get some seed funding and some people to walk with them. So that's kind of how it works. We've got foundation and corporate partners down here that fund the foundation, and then we've got the alumni network. So pretty comprehensive. Our business model is we'll be organized as a 501c3. We're using an innovative SaaS model. It's based on HP's innovation business printing model. It's a new thing that's coming out, where basically they're doing everything for the customer. The customer doesn't have to go buy the printer or all that stuff. They just say, here's what we need, and HP takes care of it. And we want to be full service. So we get revenue from contributed income. So this could come from a foundation or a company. We'll have some subscription revenue, and we'd like to have sponsors for that, because there's a lot of folks that want to do this that don't have the money to pay for it. And then we have services revenue. So there'll be things that need to be done that we can get paid for, like websites and things like that. And then you deduct the costs, and then you have the profit. This is the underlying magic. Unlike some nonprofit organizations, our solution's simple, affordable, innovative, and on demand. This is our executive team so far. So is myself, and then Mike Anderson is our CMO. He was the CMO for Reviver, the digital license plate company, and he previously worked with Steve Jobs. Here's Emma. So she's on our advisory board, and she's also executive director of Power Moms Tribe. Tom Seaman leads new business innovation at HP North America, and I've worked with him for 20 years. And then Jun Chang is up in Seattle, and he's the founder of the Digital Wise Owls. These are partner organizations here, and you can see Y Combinator and Carlson and Startup SAC, et cetera. And so we've got a lot of good folks here. One of the things that's important is that we measure what we do. So we have 3 key OKRs, objective key results. The first is to successfully build and operate Solduck Leadership by the end of this year. And we're on track. It's going well. Our external mission is to develop 1,500 servant leaders and 375 new social ventures by the end of 2038. So this is kind of what you call a big, hairy, audacious goal. And then finally, what we want is in 2058, we'd like this thing to still be humming along. I'll be probably long gone, but because of age, but this will be something that continues to thrive. And then we have sub-metrics, which are also important. So these are our key achievements to date. You can see I learned about this through all my career work. We did the research, then we had COVID, and now we're tracking our progress via YC. This is our timeline. You can see there's 3 MVPs on here. The first one is the school, the second one is the social venture school, and then the third one is the incubator. These are our rough financial needs and investment vehicle. We're looking for money of about $350,000. This will be primarily funded through donations, and it'll be tax deductible. So this is kind of the end of the formal presentation. So I wanted to thank you for spending the time with me. I would ask that if you like what you see, that you share our story with individuals who want to help create a better world. I would be happy to have you review our full business plan overview and provide feedback to us. Obviously follow on LinkedIn and the Solduck Leadership Twitter account. And then we will be doing some joint customer development sessions in our global online community. And if it's something you're interested in, we'd love to have you join us. So that's where we are. This is my contact information, and I'll put that up a bit. And then I've got a couple more slides here that I can go to in a little bit. So thank you very much. And I hope that what I've shared is exciting and interesting for you.
All right, thank you.
Nice.
Dick.
Very well done.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
jump in.
I have two charts here I want to just share real quickly. These are sort of backups, but servant leadership is it's something that's been popular over the years, but there's not been a really good definition. So this is our definition of it. Servant leadership results from behaviors and practices that primarily emphasize the well-being of those being served. It's a philosophy and practice that benefits the health of an organization and the customers it serves by focusing on serving their highest priority needs to ensure their continued development to achieve maximum performance. In the case of customers, it ensures their needs have been accurately defined, and the customer service model focuses on filling those needs and meeting the commitment of the brand promise. So how I got involved in this, I went to West Point for college, and I was in the military for a number of years in Europe and NATO, sitting up on the border watching the East Germans and the Russians and all those guys. And then when I got out, I went to work for IBM. And then through IBM, I got involved in serving in the community. First two were governor school, and the second one was CASA. So I was in the founding chapter of the original CASA. So those two were well supported and pretty successful. But over the next 38 years, I worked with over 30 nonprofits voluntarily. And along the way, I could see that a lot of them really struggled. And so I saw the good, the mediocre, the bad, and the dysfunctional. And so even though I worked to transform some of these, some were able to change, most were not. And so as a startup guy, I said, you know, the way to do this is take out a clean sheet of paper rather than putting on Band-Aids. And the reason is that many corporate and nonprofit leaders just don't know how to build a company. So this is what we call a vision framework, and this is a model that Jim Collins has proposed. And basically, this is to guide each company. So you start by saying, what are your core values? Because they guide what you're going to do, your decisions. Then you have to know what your purpose is. So we're stating it really clearly here, what we're doing. And then you've got the mission or the BHAG. And this is just a summary of what we do. We can come back to this. I call this my daddy slide. And the reason for that is when you're pitching to venture capitalists, there's always somebody that's on the review committee who has somebody at school that they get a phone call and say, oh, I've got to go pick up my kid at the deal, right in the middle of your presentation. So if they have this slide, they've got everything they need to know. So there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I will be open here for questions. Thank you so much.
Loved it.
Dick, that was awesome. One more hand. So I'm gonna jump in right away, Dick, because I remember seeing your original about 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 now. I remember seeing an original when you were first promoting your servant leadership. And I can see how expanded and how much work you have put into this. I mean, it's organic and it's awesome. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we're when we're on mute, we're kind of talking about like, oh, we need to have him at Grow Tech Fest, and we need to like be a business partner and then some other things, but I'll let other people speak up. So first of all, congratulations on all your hard work.
Thank you. So I would take a couple things happened that were really fortunate. So as I went through this, I started looking, I worked with Greenleaf a little bit, the Greenleaf Center and different people like that. And so, and I don't want to say this so it comes off negative, but I want to be blunt. So you have a lot of people like Greenleaf and people in universities where they do this big academic thing about servant leadership, right? And so they go have a few conferences. And it's one of the concerns I have about DEI because DEI is extremely important. And so you have people spending money to go to seminars, but then they never do anything. Okay. And so that's kind of what was going on with, or has been going on with servant leadership. And so kind of my net was with people is, hey, if you guys have a great session, that's fine. Okay. But the purpose here is not to close the meeting by singing Kumbaya and forget about it. Okay. This is about results, right? We need to know that because we've created an incredible culture and we have trust and transparency and the leaders are serving the people and the customers, we're going to get better business results. Okay. Not only that, internal business results, you're going to have a lower attrition rate. You're going to have happier customers. And so that's the message that I'm trying to do. And so what I'm saying is, this isn't obvious. I've done it for 30 some years, right? With all these nonprofits, I was the one that tried to save the San Jose Symphony. So I've been in the middle of all this and seen all the stuff. And what I concluded was you have to teach them how to be a real servant leader that's focused on driving results. And then you have to also teach them how do you do either a social venture or a business startup, because we're not just limited to social ventures. Small businesses can do it, other stuff like that. And then finally, if you've got someone that's really a horse that says, hey, I'm passionate about clean water, and they've gone through the first 2 schools, then we'll give them some money and throw seed money in it. So one of the things we're doing with Emma went to the cohort at Carlson Center during COVID, and bless her heart, she just, she's sitting in Accra, Ghana, and she has this great idea to help mothers with children. And she just says, well, I'm in Accra, but everybody else can't go to the Carlson Center on campus. So why can't I just be part of the cohort? So she went through the cohort, did a lot of work with Dan. And when that was done, I get this call from this woman in Ghana saying, I would like to have a Zoom meeting with you. And so I'm like, okay. So we talk, and I'd done 2 or 3 mentoring things in Europe, London and the Netherlands and Paris. And it's about 8-9 hours. And so she said, I want you to be my mentor. And I said, well, Emma, I'd like to do that, but I think we should find you one inside Europe, the same in the GMT, because it'll make it easier for you. And she said, no, you're the one. I did my research. So I said, okay. So now Emma and I are literally like family. And so we started working on it. And then last spring in May, she said, we just have to do it. And I was like, oh, we got to get it perfect, right? And she's, no, we just got to do it. So on May 2nd, we launched virtually. And in November, we graduated 38 women with children. And it's just been an incredible story. I don't know if Emma wants to comment at all on her experience, but that's what happened. And so we feel really fortunate about it. So.
Well, yeah, my comment will be, sorry, I've got my kids in the car, so if you hear any mommy, it's just them. So yeah, my journey with Dick has been wonderful. He's very patient and always available to discuss any thoughts, any ideas, share all that he can to make sure that the tribe is working. My business venture is also working. I actually presented at Chico last year. And it was all, yeah, it was all him. It was all him trying to prep me up and get my confidence up and get me ready for what I want to do. It's been wonderful. That's all I want to say. And thanks to people like Dick, distance doesn't matter. It's all about the heart and the readiness to serve others with the knowledge that you've acquired, and that's what he stands for: servant leadership. And I'm so glad that I took that one. Thank you.
We're grateful for Emma.
Yes, congratulations.
Congratulations on your commitment and passion
Yes,
and
absolutely.
intuition to keeping Dick as your man.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank
You know,
you.
and it was really interesting because there was a lot of infrastructure we had to get set up. So we had to do Google Workspace and we had to do website and they had to do all this stuff. And so I just said, let's just do it. And so we didn't raise money. I just, funded it to get us through the end of last year. And one of the things we learned, which was really interesting, was in Africa, they use WhatsApp a lot.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden we got like 5 emails on Gmail and it's like nobody's using them. And they're all doing WhatsApp. So one of the funny things about WhatsApp is because of the time difference, when she gets up in the morning, she does a WhatsApp to the whole group, right? And she's being a cheerleader. And I'm laying in bed, seeing her cheerlead going, yes, go, go. And it's just, it's great. And now she's getting out and meeting with the people one-on-one. And we did a lot of due diligence when we picked the first class. And, everybody's so different. And it's just been a real blessing to be able to impact those lives like that. I'll tell you one more story. So, and Emma, don't kill me, okay? So we were early on, and so she has 3 children, and the youngest is probably, I don't know, 1.5 now, maybe 2. But she was crying, and she said, I've got to take care of something here just a minute. So all of a sudden, she goes off camera, right? And then pretty soon it's like quiet. And I'm like, what did you do? She says, well, I'm feeding the baby. So I said, Emma, you're the perfect example of the mother with children that needs Power Moms Tribe.
Right,
So,
Knows
absolutely.
best.
right.
and
What-
now,
Right, all of us moms, everybody. We all have to multitask.
I was going to say now whenever that we have calls, the kids all come in the room to see Uncle Dick.
Oh,
Oh, cute.
that's
That's cool.
nice.
It's just amazing. So, yeah, we're hoping we need to make a trip over there in the fall. So,
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing. I can't wait for the
Meet
pictures from
halfway or
that.
something, yeah.
Right? Right. Okay,
Oh.
I want to hear
Yeah.
more. I want to hear more about your incubator and mobile app. So it sounds like you've matched your
so
incubator with your mobile app and a mentor, and that sounds like it sounds like an interesting recipe. I'd like to learn a little bit more.
So one of the things that I just completed a cohort with Tryon Leadership Services back in Minnesota. We did it virtual, but the gentleman that led it is a pretty well known. He works pretty closely with Ken Blanchard, and so I went through the cohort. I knew a lot of this stuff already, but I wanted to just be there. And a lot of his people that were there, was about 40 people, and mostly we're in kind of the printing industry, which is where he kind of started, and that's become kind of a thing in the Midwest, servant leadership and kind of family oriented kind of stuff. So what my thought here. So what really impressed me with what Mark did was it was very personal. It wasn't like, okay, let's go to the webinar, and if you miss it, you can watch it, right? It was like each person was getting touched every week. So one of the things I noticed over the years with a lot of companies is we do as leaders a crummy job of onboarding people. We don't do a development plan, a performance plan, and we don't even have a job description. We don't talk about the culture. It's just sort of like, hey, we'll see you. We'll all go to lunch and then, go fight the sharks, right? And so you need that personal onboarding. And then the second thing is we chose to go with a company called Mighty Networks to do the community. And I took my time on it because I wanted to make sure they weren't going to go away. The people that built it originally did Ning, which they used at Silicon Valley Ventures, and which was a nonprofit. But the gal that ran SV2 was Laura Arriaga, and her father was a big land developer in the valley and big Stanford person. And she ended up marrying Mark Andreessen, who did NetScreen or Netscape. Remember the original browser? So he's a big VC now, one of the top. And so she became the entrepreneur in residence, and he became so impressed with it that he funded Mighty Networks, and they just got another round. So my concern was, are they going to still be here? So they've got a top-notch team. They've developed this platform that you can configure fairly easy. And so that's what we've chosen to do. And with that, you have that mobile app, okay? And then what we're going to add on to the mobile app is kind of a lessons thing, so that we can, if you're just sitting there like right now and you've got your phone there, we could send out a text that says, hey, when was the last time that you went out and talked to some of your employees, right? It's a kind of stupid basic question, right? But you know what? People sit in their office. Same with CEOs. They don't go out and, when was the last time you talked to a customer? So there's you kind of keep a conversation going, and you make it so it's two-way. It's not one way. And that's what Mighty Networks has actually done. So like this morning, every morning I get a text from the developer guy saying, hey, dude, you didn't do anything yesterday, right? What do you need? I'm like, well, I've been working on the website, and it's like, okay, but they're engaged. So what we want is this personal touch. Then when you go, so you've got the onboarding properly, then you've got the app as a tool, but then you do the mentoring. And the purpose of the mentoring is to say, okay, if you're going to be a servant leader, do you know what your purpose is? What's your life purpose? What's your work purpose? What's the organization's purpose? Because if you don't know that, it goes back to Yogi Berra. If you don't know where you're going, you might not get there. And that's what I see with all these startups in the greater Sacramento area is, you get teams that are not compatible. We'll say, oh, we're going to hire Joe to be the marketing person. And I say, well, what's the background? Well, he likes marketing. Never did marketing, but by God, we're going to put him in the marketing role, right? And, this gets back to Jim Collins, which is you got to get the right people on the bus culturally. And you have to get the person into the right seat. And if you make a poor hire, and you see startups do it all the time where it's the wrong fit. But that's hard letting somebody go. So, my take is, okay, if they're not in the right seat, then you got to train them for another seat, or you need to be honest and say, we'll give you some runway here and help you find another deal. But if you don't get that right, it doesn't work. And I've seen startup after startup, just go down. And also you've got the founder syndrome, because a founder may have the best idea, but they're not going to be able to scale it. And so if that person has trust and respect, then they could stay with the organization. They may not stay in the CEO role. They may be the strategist or something. But again, those are all these little soft nuances. But when you get back to basic core values, for instance, for me, the first one is trust, the second one is respect, and the third one is do the right thing. So when I first went to AdaptTech to run worldwide sales, one of my top directors decided to go to another startup in San Jose. And so I said, okay, if that's the right thing for you, I'm going to support it, but I need your favor. I'm going to call the manager that's hiring you. And I called them and I said, you're getting one of my best guys. And if for some reason this doesn't work out, I will take him back in a heartbeat. And 6 months later, he was back. But the guy's like, are you kidding me? You're calling me because you want to make sure we're doing the right thing for this guy? I'm like, yeah, that's how you have to do it.
Yep.
So it's that's where the whole servant leadership thing starts to really, because you're not grumpy in the morning when you come to work. You go, dang, you know, I'm gonna see Emma today, you know, I'm gonna see Declan today. Okay. And how's the kids doing? And you know, what can I do to support what you're working on? You know, or what did you complete? Well, hey, that's great. We appreciate you, right? Because when you're in a toxic environment, it's awful. I work with a company in Carlsbad that did endpoint security, and the guy that was the CEO had worked for me before a couple times. He was a control freak, and it just crushed the company. And you know, he would go through sales VPs, you know, every 60 days. And I'm like, you can't do this, okay? You gotta let it play out. So anyway, I feel like I'm talking too much. Sorry.
Interesting.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
real.
yeah, and it's good to hear how things happen organically because of different inputs and different results, right? So we appreciate you taking the time to walk us through that. So
Thank you.
yeah, and your partner list has grown, which is also impressive. Yeah, we outside of this call, we will set up some time to chat with you about some stuff we would love to have you do in the North State.
Yeah, and I think before you got here, I'm doing a presentation in Folsom at 11, and it's about leveraging the power of servant leadership. So it's not saying let's talk about soul duck. It's like, okay, let's talk about servant leadership. And so that is one of those things that we're working on, and I think it'll be good. So
Yeah, we would love to talk to you about Grow Tech Fest.
what's that?
Our Grow Tech Fest conference that's coming up in October.
And it's the week after Growth Factory, so there's no conflict specific to that. So it's October 11th and 12th, and it's here in Chico at the Sierra Nevada Brewery's Big Room. And this will be our 4th year.
Wow.
This is exciting.
See, we'll get you up here.
I would love to do that. And so we one of the things that we decided to do was to be part of the Y Combinator program, not as one of the top ones like the unicorn ones, but going through kind of the tracking thing. And it's really quite good. And then it also gives you some visibility. But we're doing a soft launch on Friday. So we're going to start to go more public. So this thing in Folsom is kind of the first, sharing the story. And we've started to turn things up on Twitter and LinkedIn, and kind of getting people out there. So, and in between then and kind of the first part of September, we'll get all the content done for the school, for the servant leader school, and then we'll start to pull people in. But before that, we'll do some small sessions with people like yourselves where we say, okay, let's talk about customer discovery. Okay, what else would you put in something like this? What are we missing? what doesn't look right. Because if you don't listen to the customer, you miss out. And so I'm a big customer feedback person too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Customer feedback is the breakfast of champions.
I love it.
True.
That'll be our quote.
So Dick,
There you go.
Heather and I would love to schedule some time outside of this.
Yeah.
But there's other people besides me who probably have questions or comments. So I'll quit talking because I think what Kent, you want to talk about Verizon.
Yeah,
Grant.
so this, I don't know if you can see this. Verizon.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, Verizon has a program where they can apply for a small business thing. And I think they missed the deadline
Small business grants.
from March 1 until May 12.
Oh,
However, I'll just read because it seems to be an annual thing.
right.
So it was created to with a focus on I had it here. That's one of those things.
yeah, no, I think there'll be a number of those kind of things. I saw one from B of A a couple days ago.
The
One
reason
of
I
the,
want you is it has free personalized learning through 40 courses, mentorship, peer networking, one-to-one expert coaching, and incentives such as grant funding. And like I said, the grant funding.
That was a
would-
piece, yeah.
When, it's just a piece of it, but I think you probably have to wait till next year to do it. But they have a citizenverizon.com, has all sorts of maybe other programs. You might look at that.
no, I appreciate that because we're going to be building that out. I actually got up in the middle of the night last night and I was going through the Salesforce .org stuff because they give you stuff. So we're using it. We're using Salesforce, and it's also for donors and funders and stuff too. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, so we're getting out there now, but we want to listen to people, and we're working hard to do that. We're trying to make it really personal as we start. We don't want to have like, a zillion people show up. We want to make sure that each one that comes into the program is going to have good care and feeding. And we want this to be a long-time relationship where they're part of the community and that they can also, do guest speeches or, whatever. The other thing I was going to say about the mentoring is I worked with Micro Mentor when they were doing the thing with Sacramento, and then I think the city, stopped funding it. One of the challenges is people don't really know the difference between a mentor and a coach. And knowing that is really important because a mentor is more, okay, here's how you do this, and this is what I want you to do. Where a coach is, what do you think about this? Right. And then they shut up and you force the entrepreneur to say, okay, how do I really think through this? Right. And they can still ask a lot of questions, but it becomes kind of an art. And it's one of the things that I went through a program at Fuller last year, and it was on coaching. And I was really stunned because, here's this old guy that's, done all these crazy things. And I'm like, dang, I just learned that the coaching deal is different than I thought it was. So, and Micro Mentor is actually trying to do more stuff, but I think they're kind of, and I'm not going to try to be negative, but I think they're more on the, they're kind of trying to get people just to help people, but I don't think they're really giving them the training they need to do it properly. So, and they're a great organization. It's all nonprofit, but part of what we're about is excellence.
Oh, one other point. Actually went to that Citizen Verizon page, and they say we're committing $3 billion to help those who need it most. So they have other programs than the thing I mentioned. So you might find some resources there.
Yeah, they're interested in doing it as sort of a way to say, look at what we're doing for the community, which is important. But anyway,
Marketing.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's marketing. And so I think if anybody's going to do that, they got to make sure they're going to get the quality support that they need. So for instance, with Emma, we meet twice a week and we're on call, both ways. So she can WhatsApps me, at 10 at night or whatever. And that's what you really need to kind of take it to that next level.
Dick, I heard you say you worked for IBM for a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
For you guys, as far as like partnership or support or sponsorship, or my dad also, I had to say, worked for IBM for 35 years. Started back east and came out to California to San Jose.
you did?
My dad.
Your dad, okay, and he was in San Jose
Yeah, he started off in New Jersey, New York, and Poughkeepsie
at the
area.
plant.
Bailey. Mhm.
Yeah, so I started in Seattle on the Boeing team. And because I was in the military, I had a top secret clearance. And so I was cleared for the B-2 bomber program and did all the early CAD CAM work. And then went to San Francisco. And then I went to LA and ran Rockwell with the NASA and the space thing. And then I ran all the sales and marketing in Silicon Valley. And, one of my examples I'm going to share with Folsom guys is, when I started, I went to training for a whole year. I still worked, but you were gone 3 weeks at a time. Then you worked with customers and, a whole year. That's a lot of money to put into that. And then when I became a first level manager, I had 3 weeks back in New York teaching me how to be a good manager. Right. And companies don't do that anymore.
Dad used to do that too. Yep.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Declan's got a question. Did you
Oh,
have?
Had an in with IBM at all, as far as like, if there's anybody to connect with as far as like sponsoring or having some sort of part in what you're doing?
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting, I follow the IBM alumni group on Facebook. And one of the things they talk about is the idea of a branch office being like a family. Because they used to do family dinners every year where the corporate people would come out and they pay for it. You could bring your wife or your husband or whoever. And, and they sang songs, it was kind of hokey, but everybody loved it. So I think that was a pretty neat deal.
Sounds like
So
a banner.
I want to make sure we don't miss Declan here.
Declan had a question.
Hey, Dick, thank you. Appreciate you actually looking at the chat. That's always hard when you're doing a Zoom call. And pardon the noise outside. I'm in the midst of building, so I'm in a construction zone. One thing I really am impressed with everything you're doing. And I think one of the things when you're going to do your Folsom speech that I wanted to sort of partly ask a question, but also share a little advice on that is that leveraging servant leadership, the concept, especially I'm a longtime entrepreneur from the Valley. A lot of times the attention spans, as I call it, are 3 seconds to 3 hours. So I think the concept of servant leadership really is a meme, is an intro, is an intriguing, curiosity provoking. It's not, most leaders wouldn't think of themselves as servants, the great ones do. And especially people coming up are so busy, they sort of can say it. I think there's so much power in that, but making sure that concept, that brings them into the deeper, you have a very deep personal kind of approach. And I think that's really powerful, but I really encourage you on servant leadership because I saw power leadership and servant leadership, and I can see everyone I know would go right to power. So, and I think that would be missing a lot of the beauty that you're sharing here. So the question I had is, as you do your Folsom presentation, and to think about what little pieces of that, what little short 30s, and I, by the way, hate to say this, but it's just the fact of now, what 60-second to 1 minute clips, sound bites, summations of servant leadership can start going out in the social world and building groups that you can give people to go out and start building it. Because as much as there's a personal aspect, I think if you get sort of a buddy system and allow people to start grouping up and working in little geographical areas, even doing it virtually, it'd be really powerful because that sort of camaraderie and belonging, many communities lose that because people come in. So I guess my question is to you, maybe not for an answer, but as you go and do your Folsom, think about where these sound bites and intros could be developed that allows people to dive into a much deeper rabbit hole. And that's why I call it 3 seconds to 3 hours, because they're scanning information, but when they get in there, they will spend the 3 hours. And I think you have something so worth spending 3 hours on, but to make sure that there's sort of ways in using curiosity to open it up. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to dominate this, and I'll let you go here, but I'd love to share more on this if you have any interest, just as a friend and having run communities for 30 years online. When we're virtual, we need that little bit of intro, especially younger generations, which is far different than you and I, as we well know, but in a good way. Like, how can we use it? And are there any snippets from your Folsom thing just off the top of your head? Do you think that you might be able to not condense?
So you're spot on. So going back to the noticing the thing in the chat, I mean, the good news is I saw it, but you know, when you get to be my age, you might forget about it before you take the action. So, I think what you're saying is perfect. What this needs to be is like creating a tribe, like the Grateful Dead, right? You want a whole group that's saying, yeah, this is our cause. So can you see the screen there?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the pitch. And so one of the things that I discovered, I'm coaching somebody who's leading a DEI effort in New Mexico. And I said to her, you know, one of the things, you know, she did this, she's doing a couple different pieces to present to the group. And I said, this is really spot on and it's clear, et cetera. The whole thing's good, but you need to be prepared because there's going to be naysayers that are going to say, well, we're not eating the dog food here. You know, we don't like this. And so I'm going into this thing in Folsom saying, okay, there's probably going to be some people that say, yeah, that's pretty cool. And some go, this guy's boring. So what I tried to do with this real quickly is I've got the overview. So then I start out with what is leadership, okay? And this is a definition from Jim Collins. Then there's the two basic types, power and service. Then this looks like this with two pyramids, you know, top down versus bottom up. This talks about, this is the highest form of leadership. So what's the business problem? So as I said earlier in our pitch, startups are hard. And they're hard because you don't have a great culture. You don't have the right people on the bus and in the right seat, et cetera. So why are they so hard? So these are the three things I pulled out: crafting the culture, spotting the right talent, and the changing role of the founder. So the solution, according to Collins, is to take out a clean sheet of paper and build an enduring great organization. So an example would be IBM, or it would be Patagonia, or it could be Nordstrom. But this is the Everest Base Camp. And if you're there, you got to make sure you have the right people and with the right skills, right? So then these are the things that you need to put into a great organization. This is the hedgehog concept, which basically says, what can you be the best in the world at? And what are you passionate about? And then what's your economic engine? You create a foundation based on servant leadership, and it has to be intentional. These are the benefits. And then this is Ken Blanchard. If you're going to be a great leader, you have to care about your people. So that's kind of what I put together for them. And I think what you just said is consistent with that. And I would like to work with you so we can hook up afterwards, okay?
Please do. And if I could give you only one piece of advice from looking at that,
Sure.
I would bump the upside down pyramid right up front. It's visual. You have a lot of text in your presentation. They are so visual, like it's crazy. But that one inherently it embodies a deep concept that they really like too. So it's a yes. That's a little, because sometimes we're getting a little bit more. And I would also, I don't have to go to the Jim Collins one, but I'd say right at the beginning, get your sheet of paper out. start writing. You can still leave it in the same context, but get them thinking that this is something, this isn't you talking at them as you talked about like a lot of leadership things, which is I'm a thought leader and I buy my book. This is more like, we're going to start doing it. So I want you to take out your paper, take notes, and make sure so you can ask me questions later, just as a little way to make it a little bit more interactive, but also to not just get them listening, but to actually be able to feedback. So anyway, it's easy to say, and I'd be more than honored to
No,
help
no,
you in any way, shape, or possible.
no, you're perfect. You're spot on. And so I normally try to do not so much text, but I had this really important engagement in Chico. So that was my first priority to get that pitch right. And then this one, I was trying to get it all down. So I had it and I could kind of be flexible, but I do agree on the visuals. So good. Well, I don't want to go past your time here. I have really enjoyed this. I hope it's provided value for you guys.
This is the best
Absolutely.
one in a long
That
time.
was an incredible presentation, Dick. We all love that.
Right.
We'll connect with you offline, Dick, about Grow Tech Fest.
Okay, I'm gonna go
Yeah,
ahead.
that
And,
would be great. And, I'm just excited. So
We're excited for you. Good luck today.
Yeah, good luck today.
absolutely.
thank you. So, all right. Well,
Gonna wrap up.
All
sounds-
right, everybody. Thank you so much, Dick. Round of applause, real quick, for Dick and Philly about leadership.
thank you, Emma.
And
Yes,
thanks,
thank you,
Ed.
Emma.
Thanks, Emma, for
Absolutely.
the chance.
Good to see you.
Good
Uh,
to see you.
Again,
Bye.
Take
name is-
care.
I've been
Take
your
care.
organizer. I'd love to thank Eva for being our chapter lead. Up next, where would we be without our community sponsors? We'd like to thank Chico Start, Grow Tech, Global Entrepreneurship Network, Build with Ferguson, Startup Grind, and of course, Stobel Coffee. Here are some of our events we have upcoming. Again, I cannot overemphasize this. Grow Tech Fest 2023, October 11th through 12th, held both days in the Sierra Nevada Big Room. Very exciting. Again, I would love to thank Dick for coming in and giving us such an amazing presentation. And lastly, I would like to thank the audience for showing up today to 1 Million Cups. I want everyone to leave on this last note from Bill Gates. It's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of the failure.
Amen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We had a great time.
Thank you, Declan. Thanks for
Thank-
joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Yes.
Thank you. Take
Great.
care. Bye.